Welcome back to the Indiana Garage, and look what we got here. Now, from the last video in this series, it was the roof joints up there. Before that, the drip rails, and then we had the heater box, so we was kind of jumping around there. But we got back into the body. That's what we got here, and you can see there's a lot of crude-looking paper. Well, the crude paper is to mask off areas from where I painted the color underneath and up in the wheel wells and all that kind of business. So what we're doing here, you can still see spots. This is epoxy primer. We're going to take some more epoxy primer, basically what I got left, and we're going to spot prime these areas where we did some body work. We went through, we double checked, triple checked, quadruple checked stuff, and made sure that we are good. And although I doubt it'll be perfect, it'll be decent. So I'm going to come through and spot prime all of these areas, so that we can put on 2K primer, which is a sandable primer. That's what gives you kind of your volume look to your paint. It also helps hide small scratches, and you can fill over. It's like a 2K filler primer. And here's the 2K filler primers I'm using. 421-19 Select Prime 2K. And then you can get the activator, which is 483-87 Nason Exalta brand. So if they have a sign for Exalta, they should have Nason. A lot of O'Reilly's, at least in this region, carry it, and even certain Napa stores might carry it if they don't carry Martin Senior. So what I'm going to do is go through and wipe this booger down, because I've already blown it off a few times, so everything's settled. So I'm going to wipe it down, and then we're going to spot prime it. All right, next day, and this is after we sprayed our epoxy primer. Again, Select Prime. We got this all cleaned out and ready to go. I just got to wipe it down. It is raining outside. That's why I have the door down this far. I put a fan here to pull air. So hopefully whatever fresh air we get in here, that fan will help kind of get a little bit of a cycle going here. And how many parts is this? I forget. I think it's a 4-to-1. Focus. Yeah, it's 4-to-1. So, I have to kind of look at it here. The 80, yeah. So 1 part of this to 4 parts. That's your regular. That's the actual primer, and this is the activator. So, that's how the Nason line works. Okay, so we're a few days later from what you were just looking at. This is after a second coat of 2K primer. So I pretty much used 1 quart to do the first coat. Remember, this stuff's supposed to be thick, so that's fine. I went ahead and got another quart and did a second coat. And that second coat also includes the hood scoops and then the gas cap, okay? So that is included. So top, sides, rear, front, all that stuff. So we're looking pretty good. I'm going to start sanding it. I'm going to dry sand it. I'm going to look at and see if 220 will work good. I would like, if I can avoid doing 180 to start out, I'm going to try to avoid it. But if not, I'll hop over to 180 and take care of that as the first sanding. And then the second sanding will be with 320. So if you're not familiar with doing that sort of thing, or you might just be overwhelmed in your mind thinking about it, well, it's not a big deal. This is actually the home stretch. This is a good spot to be. Just pick a panel. So I start at usually a corner and then call that the first corner. So we could start here on this fender and just worry about the fender only. Don't start meandering over there and just doing it randomly. You know, let the borders dictate where things stop. So we'll do this one first. Now, one thing I think on this car, as far as something that might need to be taken care of, go back and take care of it, is on this fender. There's a spot about right here where that line comes down and it kind of flip-flops. And then right down here I noticed there's a spot that's like a low spot. And I don't know if you can see it, but it is there. So there's at least two spots right there. I was probably working on this area at one point, and then it was smooth enough and I forgot about it. I walked away probably for a couple days, came back and didn't even think about it, and it looked fine. But it stands out now, so this is the time to fix it. But we'll get all this sanded of the 2K, because the 2K is meant to fill scratches, fill little imperfections. And then we'll have to take care of some areas. I think right here, it kind of bumps out. You might even see a shadow from it right kind of here. So we'll want to kind of work that. And it's not to make the car perfect, it's just to make it look a little better than it would than if we painted it now. So this 2K primer, it's a high build primer. You sand it down, not completely, but you sand it to where it's reasonable. If you go through and sand it, we'll use a soft block and you still see scratches, well, it means you either need to go a little bit more, or you need to take that area down and kind of start over and fill it out. Make the sanding scratches go away, because it takes away a certain level of scratches. I would say, I think I said it earlier in this video, like a safe place to be is 180 and finer. It should take care of those when you lay this on top of that, like hitting areas of Bondo and maybe some old paint, you know, other primers you're using under it. And just remember, every primer is different. Epoxy, this is not going to do what epoxy does. And epoxy is to seal. This is to build and give you kind of a depth. So when you go to paint this, it should have enough depth to it and add depth to the paint where it doesn't magnify or amplify any body work we did. Like, you know, we did the roof seams here. Now, when you put epoxy over that, you can kind of see a shadow of the roof seam because it just lays different. It lays a little tighter to that. So you see little bits of imperfection. Now, if I would have painted over top of that, it would have kind of magnified through, amplified, so to speak, and you would kind of see it. Well, the 2K primer, it builds up high and it builds up kind of thick, so that when you spray it on here, it really has made that disappear. You cannot see any of that going on. Now, yeah, there's little areas, but you don't see a shadow of where the bodywork or the roof line and all that stuff is. So when you smooth this out and paint over it, whether you put a sealer or an epoxy on top of this, then it makes it look better. It makes the paint look better. It promotes the paint. So let's get moving on some sanding. All right. Okay, so here you can see we've started some sanding on this side of the car. I went up around, and I just cut off, when I do individual panels, like I talked about the borders of everything, I also section them off if possible. So these A-bodies, they have a lot of lines, a lot of sectional type deal, so I just do that there. That way you can cut off cleanly. So we'll do this little band here and then the little wrap down. And I'll just go back and do the doors, or the door next, okay? So I just start at the fender top, and you go crosshatch, right? So we have our pad right here, and whatever pieces you got. Like I said, I'd like to start with 220 first. And there's a case I'll describe to you in a second where I couldn't really go with that, but I just start with the direction, go all the way, one end to the other. Just make a nice solid crosshatch. This just dips down a little bit. You make sure to add some pressure, and then come back the other way and crosshatch it. And it's cleaning up really nice. You don't see a lot of, you see the crosshatch in there. The 320 should help smooth that out. And we're not getting a lot of offending action going on there. Now back here though, I did do this trunk lid, and there was some scratches. I believe I've gotten them out, but they was kind of deep scratches. I think this is kind of where one of them was. You can kind of see at the end of my fingernail. It went across there, and when you went over it, it stayed darker because you're not sanding it. So I had to go back to 180, and I went 180 over this whole trunk lid. And I did do this trunk lid separately from the rest of the car, because if you remember, if you've been watching our series, this was acquired at a different time than we was doing everything else. So I probably was a little hastier with the sanding, but not too much to where I couldn't repair the scratches with the 2K primer. And this has been setting for a few days, so it has shrunk back, if any, that it has done. So there's that, and I will go then forward and go 220, then 320. So you're going basically 3 stretches on that particular panel. Now up here, this is where I started just a little bit ago. I started on this fender, did the entire fender, crosshatch both ways, and went back to the door. Now the door, I had a little bit of what looked like almost like a fisheye through here. It wasn't a fisheye, but it was like a little dip in the paint. Very, very small. Like I said, it looked like a fisheye. Just a little extra pass on that, and they went away. So we're good on that. And then just make sure you get the dip up here and then the top. I'm not really hitting the apexes. You can see a little bit of metal there, but I'm not concentrating on them. I'm actually just kind of staying away, and they are really collateral damage if I do it. If I do hit those at all, I'm going to hit them with the 320 because they are on the edges, and that'll take care of it. It'll take off less material. And it's okay to take off material. Keep that in mind. This is actually bare metal through here. That's a fairly hard line through the middle of the car on the side. Just remember, you do need to seal coat this before you paint it. So this will either get either a sealer or another coat, a wet coat of epoxy on top of it when we are done doing this step. Keep that in mind. Okay, so fast forward next day, we have the first round of sanding complete. Like I told you, I did some 180 in there amidst trying to do it in 220. There was the trunk lid needed to be done in 180. There were sections of the roof that I needed to do in 180, and part of this quarter panel as well. And it's really it's pretty good working with this stuff, because it's just, if you see some spots developing. You see some old scratches. If you imagine my fingers like a microscopic view of the scratches, you see them and you just rub a little bit and it pretty much just dulls away. I had a little bit of that going on down through here where we had done that split with a quarter panel and welded it back to get the door gap right. Little spots like that. We had some areas up here where the primer laid a little funky or a little coagulated, I guess you could say, in a couple areas. And you was able to just take your sandpaper with the block behind it and just keep cross hatching it and go both ways, isolate it, and it would pretty much just melt away. Okay, so really good there. As I mentioned, I got a spot there. There's a spot right here. It's a little high right here with the old filler where I went across, so we're gonna have to level that down, and this needs to come out. It's a little bit of a ding. So all this dust, you see how dusty it is because that's the buildup, and that's what you got, right? That's the magic of 2K primer. It's basically a micro filler for everything on the car. So what I need to do, I need to blow all this off or vacuum it off, then blow it off, wipe it down, and then go to 320. And then we'll see in the process as we clean this up any areas that we might need to touch up with the 220, 180, whatever the difference is for what it needs. And then we can finish it out that way because right now you're not going to see it. It's kind of hidden under all this dust. So if you get it back and like, okay, that's actually a good spot right there. There's a little bit. Can you see that right there? That is not a bad example. Not a bad example because you seeing that just a little bit in the 320 will probably take care of that. But if let's say if that was a little more obvious, then you kind of isolate it with some 120, or I'd say the 220 to take care of it, and then you go on. But just inspect it, and if you keep up this attitude, then it should yield a pretty good result in the end when you get your paint on there. So, like I said, clean it up, and we're going to go to 320. Oh, it's almost paint time. Let's check it out. So everything's sanded. We did the 180, 220 kind of mix. Went down to 320 and fixed our spots up there on that front fender. A couple other little spots. And I got another one I'll discuss here in a second. A last minute decision sort of thing. But this, since we did rub through some of the lines, and you know that's going to happen. And anyways, you want a seal coat of either a sealer or epoxy. I kind of have the idea that if you hit the metal, the bare metal, then let's reseal it with epoxy. So we're going to do some, maybe just 1.5, 2 wet coats of thinned out epoxy primer. Probably that other coat that I'm kind of referring to is just spot priming these areas, just dusting it on and covering it, and then letting it flash, and then thinning it down or reducing it down just a little bit, and then going over the whole car and making a nice solid base for our paint to go on. Now, the last minute decision I made is up here. Notice the emblem holes are gone. I decided last minute to not do the 72 fender emblems. I have one, has a broken stud. I would have needed another one. I was like, the prices were really high on them for whatever reason. Because 72 and up, they use the little steel emblem, or the pot metal emblem, chrome, you know, on the fenders. And then on the 72 on the rear, between the taillights, you had the little sticker with the reflective base to it, and then it had the little dust cloud, the little angry tornado. So we have that. And I got to thinking about it. I mean, we're kind of making a car that's best of both worlds. We have the 8 3/4. We have the 71 style gauges. We have the 73 and up front end, and then all the corresponding larger bolt patterns. So we kind of have a mixture, kind of an all-around car. Since 72 was a weird year, anyways. It was, you know, I think that was the first year we had the headliner that was the full cardboard style. And maybe not all of them even had that. So that's kind of one of those things. So I decided to go ahead and weld up those emblem holes on both sides. So I did, and you can kind of see the area has been, I've sanded, I sealed it back off, did our block sand on it, and we're pretty much ready to go. That little green tape is just to remind me of a little area I'm going to fix a couple scratches. I'm going to sand them out, and we'll be good. But I thought that the decal style on the front, the reflective duster like they use on the 70 and 71, I'll use that on there. Plus it's more in line with the one that's going to be on the back. It'll be more consistent. Now the 72s did use those on the fender, but it was in different ways. They did not use them there to my knowledge. If you had the 340 specific stripe that rode along this line, they would put it right here. It would say Duster. Okay. If you had a gold Duster, that package, the trim package, it would use the gold Duster decals on the side, but they were not the white ones. It was the gold with the black outline, but they were reflective. So that's the closest match to that. So this is kind of making the car unique, but we are unique in a couple ways that we are likely are going to do a 340, and we're not using the traditional 340 stripes. We're using the gold Duster white stripes. So it's just kind of having a custom effect, but using factory concepts. So with that said, this car, this episode is ready to end. So you could see the plastic. I'm still sealing off stuff like this, and it's very crude, but I've made it accessible to my compressor so I can adjust the regulator. I can get in there and use the paint. We have the garage door, since it's an old, dirty, nasty garage door. I vacuumed it off and then put plastic over it. Here's our fan. It's going to direct air out. You can see there's air coming in over there. We will wet the floor down and get into most of the rest of these details in the next video. In the next video, you're going to see it get painted. We have our paint. We'll show you that in the next episode, so make sure that you're following along. Really appreciate you watching. Until next time, this is the Indiana Garage.